be home by 9. Hell, I tell her that most of the time. Whoa, baby, don't know, won't hurt her too much. Whoa, I'll tell her where, but I won't say what. Oh, now I'm dancing, oh, I'm dancing. I'm dancing with the devil. Oh, now I'm dancing, oh, I'm dancing.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Otter Creek and Rio Grande and the first structure build of 2026. So what I'm going to work on for this video for sure is the Atlantic cable mine. This is a Wild West Models kit, and it comes with the shaft house and an ore bin. And I'm not 100% sure as I start this whether or not I'm going to use that ore bin or not. I think I will build it. It's just a matter of, is it going to function well with the location that I'm wanting the mine to sit in. So, you know, I've gone through the book here and it all looks pretty good. I don't see any glaring issues with the instructions. You know, it starts out for sure giving you a nice view of all the parts and what they should look like before they go together. And if I can turn the page here, and then it gives you, you know, what you should do first. You know, it recommends painting all the parts first and so on and so forth. And I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with the color of this just yet. I'm at the point where I'm going to have to make that decision. So in step one, they recommend that you build the windows inside the wall itself, and I have not done that. I went ahead and built the windows up, and I'm gonna paint them, and that's where I'm at. I've got to figure out what do I want these to be, and I'm thinking I'll probably go with an off-white of some kind, and then the walls themselves I think are going to be some kind of natural wood color. I'm leaning towards Cordovan brown, which is, let's see if I can find it here. Here it is. It's a Hunter line, which I've used this quite a bit. It's one of my favorite colors, along with this, which is Builders and Square, which is Silverwood. You can see I've probably used it more than anything else, but I also did spill about half of it. So I think I'm going to paint these up because they're ready to go, and start to do some work on the walls themselves. Got the first color laid on, and this is, I think it's desert yellow or dark yellow, I can't remember, but I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to try and use some of the color that exists in the surrounding geology just to see if maybe that works. I don't know. You know, it's kind of funny. I think all of us as modelers from time to time, we find a specific color or a series of things that we do that we get used to, that we like the results on, and then we get a little bit apprehensive of doing anything different. This is not normally a color I would probably choose to use as trim for anything, but I thought I'd give it a shot, and I guess if I don't like it, then you know, I'll have an opportunity to change it. So now I think on the windows themselves, I think I'm going to use ivory, and and then maybe chip it down somehow, some way. I'm not sure how that goes, but that's the next thing I'm going to do. Letting the windows kind of dry up, and I'm going to get started on the walls. And I'll point out that the kit, if I understand right, you can, they're the exact same wall on either side. The only difference are these lines here, I think, that are designed to indicate individual planks if you don't want to add battens. So if you don't want to add the battens, then this is, say, the left wall, and then this becomes the right wall. And then if you want to add battens, then you just flip it around and it becomes your planking on the inside of the building instead of the outside. Ignore everything I just said there about the walls. I completely misunderstood what the instructions were telling me, but you can see that the end wall here and the end wall there are designed specifically to fit with this wall in a certain way. So it doesn't show here anywhere, but the cross lines that I mentioned, those go to the outside. I built all three of these walls ass backwards of the way I should have. Luckily, it didn't end in a disaster. What I ended up having to do was cut off this section of the back of the base plate, and then I was able to flip the end wall around and make it work. So don't do like I did. Make sure you understand before you glue anything together how the walls fit. I was amazed that I did that, but I guess I shouldn't be because I just didn't pay attention. So I'm distressing the wall a little bit here, and generally all I do is kind of come in with a wire brush at the bottom. I don't get too carried away. You can add a little bit up at the top, but as far as, you know, getting any kind of aggressiveness, I only do that at the bottom. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. As far as the color goes, I've got several of these smoke and mirror solutions that Wild West Models offers, and when I bought them, I just assumed that they were alcohol and ink of some kind, and it turns out that they're pure water. And it says on the back of one of them, or maybe all of them, but that one, it says water-based acrylic dye, warping of wood known to occur in some states of the Union. In my experience, if you use a lot of water, it's gonna curl. So I'm a little reluctant to use those. And to be honest, the only two colors I liked of what I've got is this color, which is the mud puddle, and then this color, which is fade to gray, which happens to be pretty close to the same colors as my silverwood and Cordovan brown. So I'm not going to mess with trying to do this with anything that's based out of water. I'm going to use the colors that I use normally, even after I just mentioned that we should try things differently than we normally do, but I think I'm going to like this with the colors that I want. finished up step 1 with the exception of the doors, and I did decide to go ahead and include the battens. And you know, the material that was provided was pretty, what's the word? It was not uniform in shape. Generally speaking, it was, but there was quite a bit of variance in the width and the height, and I don't even really know what it was supposed to be. They don't really mention the battens at all, other than it's an option, and I decided to go with it. Now, I think that even though there's a pretty wide variety of the way it looks, I think that's prototypical, if I understand right, because board and batten material at this particular point in time when this would have been originally built, which I'm guessing would have been in the late 1800s, I think that's correct. I don't remember exactly, but you know, they rough sawed lumber, threw it up on what they called a balloon framing, and then they nailed the battens on top of the joints of the rough hewn lumber. So I'm guessing there would have been a lot of variance in the size of the battens anyway. So I think that works fine. I'm happy with the way it turned out. So now, step 1 also was supposed to include the doors. So it says right here, 2 options for the doors. For the exterior side of the door are provided: basswood to match the exterior walls or plywood for a stronger door. Glue either option to a plywood interior door panel. So if they provided an interior plywood panel, it's not shown in any of the provided parts list. So, and I've kind of perused through the parts list, and I haven't found anything that is obviously supposed to be the inside of the door. So I have not done the doors yet, and you know, part of the reason is I'm pretty sure that this side I will probably leave the door open, which is one of the reasons why I finished the inside color. I'm not sure how it's all gonna come together in the end. And you know, I'll also point out that I've got a pretty good curl in both of these, and I did what I could to keep it from warping, but you know, it's just part of it. And normally you would put bracing, but because the head frame goes inside here, I don't know where you could put bracing that it doesn't interfere with the head frame. And I also presume that, you know, just looking through the instructions, it looks to me like parts of this will absolutely glue to the head frame. So that's where I'm at now. I think the next thing in the instructions, if I remember right, step 2, well, I guess technically I'm finished with step 2 because that's the windows and doors. So now we're moving on to sub-assemblies. I might skip the ladders because I know those can be added at the end. We got the ore car track and the ore bin. I think I for sure want to go ahead and build it up now. This is the interior ore chute. And then I think we're moving on. Yeah, then we're going to move on to the head frame. So I'm going to follow it step by step, except I'm not going to mess with the stairs yet. I don't want to take any chance of them breaking. I also probably won't mess with this unless it looks like it's integral to any of this. And I don't think it is. I don't see that. This part of it might be. This is what's going to stick outside, I believe, the building. So All right, we're going to continue on. Now the instructions they're really not divided into steps. It's more all about subassemblies. So you've got the lower interior ore chute and the upper interior ore chute. Both of these have been put together. And then the next is the front frame assembly. And this is pretty straightforward. It's just to make sure that you glue these interior rungs to the right side first. And you'll notice that there's a little notch on the outside there. So kind of keeping all of that square is a little bit of a trick. All I did was on that little notch, I just hung it off on the outside edge of the mat so that everything laid flat as I glued it. And when you go to put in either one of these two ore chutes, you're going to find, at least on my kit, your kit might be a little bit different, but I found that both of these were too tight of a fit to go in. So I ended up having to sand back the areas. Let's see if I can get it on camera. The areas right in through here where they fit on both of these. And it was just, a little patience of sanding and filing and whatnot to get it to go in. And another thing to keep in mind when you, and really, I would suggest that make sure that they both fit before you glue anything, which probably doesn't need to be said, but if you're new to craftsman type modeling, always make sure they fit before you glue. I would glue this one in first so you can make sure that the top of the ore chute is at a 90 degree. And what you're going to find is that it leans forward. So don't be tempted to try and make this touch the ground because it's designed that way, and they don't, there's no instructions in the kit to speak of. It's all pictures. So these bottom pieces here, these little nubbins, they fit into the floor of the kit. And then even when that is at a straight up 90 degree, there's just a little bit of space on the underneath side of these legs on that lower ore chute. And there might be something else that goes in there, I'm not sure, but just be aware of that, because you might end up with this being malaligned if you don't take that into consideration as you go. So now I'm ready for some more of the interior structure. The interior structure and front head frame assembly is put together. Now it's not glued. They tell you do not glue to the base. And the only real trick I would say about this, when you create this assembly, so on the previous page, right here is keeping all of this square and making sure that your beams don't roll out. I ended up with one that I think this one right here rolled out just a little bit, so it doesn't fit on this support quite as square as I'd like it to. I don't think it's going to cause any problems in the end. But when you go to glue this assembly onto here, it's a little tricky because your feet are going to want to fall because you can't glue them to the base yet. So I use the 1, 2, 3 blocks and kind of just glued this side first. And you have to kind of pay close attention when you do it. I don't know if I can show it, if it's a little focus or not. But there's lines on this piece right here that shows you where it should line up on this frame piece. And on the other side, you won't see them because, you know, the way it's etched with the laser cutter, they're only going to be on one side. So, and then when you go to put your front head frame in, once again, this area in between here, I had to do a lot of sanding to get the chute to fit in there. But it wasn't too difficult. I'm pretty pleased with the way it works. And then I've got this piece, which I don't think I've mentioned or showed yet, really. So the kit comes with wooden rails. This is 18-inch. Supposed to be anyway. It really measures on my ruler closer to 15, but it provides little itty-bitty wooden cutouts for the rail. I opted to go with N-scale code 55 instead, and yeah, it's definitely too tall for what the prototype would have been, but I think it's going to look better than the wood would have. So I think none of this is glued yet, but I'm ready to move on to the roofs, I think is the next step. Yep. got the roofs taken care of for the most part. You can see there's a couple of runners that go inside of here, and you're supposed to, there's two options. You can either put the siding on before, or you can put the roofs on and then put the siding on. I opted to put the siding, the roofing, I'm saying siding, it's corrugated roofing. I decided to put it on first because I just always prefer to work with roofing material off the model if I can. And you can see there's areas here that the A-frame will pop through, and I think I still need to cut this one right here out a little bit. But I'm going to kind of wait and see how that looks once I get the A-frame built. And I don't think, and these come with a little braces on the inside there as well. I'm going to hold off putting the ridge cap on for a while yet, because I'm not sure what I want to do there. I may put a little piece of angle iron, plastic angle iron across the top there. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not in a hurry for that. It should be easy enough to do. All right. I think the next thing is the A-frame. I'm just about ready to start putting walls on, and the head frame itself, the A-frame portion of it, that went together pretty easily. The only little trick with it is on this particular piece here, the one that looks like the letter K, you have to saw off these little bits to create the tenon. And all I did was I used a very fine razor saw and made a couple of passes, and then the rest was just a matter of going with the grain to cut that off, and it wasn't really any trick whatsoever. And then it glued together real nice. Very well executed laser cutting of the parts. And then, you know, when you go together with it, you leave out this piece, which is right here. And then you shove the roof up in there, and there's little lines on the laser cut A-frame piece there that you can see where the roof should go, and then those glued in easily. That was a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. I figured that was going to be a pain, but it really wasn't. And then the other thing was building everything up here at the top of the head frame. And my only issue with this little piece right here, it probably took me longer to find that than it did to put any of this together, it seemed like. You know, it describes it down here. It says this brace aligns with the marks on the head frame timber. The U-shaped part rests on this. And so this is the U-shaped part, but I didn't view that as a U-shaped part for quite a while, and it took me a minute to realize that, okay, that they're calling that a U. I wouldn't have referred to that as a U-shaped part. I would have called it something different. I don't know what I'd have called it, but once I found that and figured out how all the rest of it went together, it was pretty simple. Now, once you get these glued in, I did find that there was a little additional filing that was needed in order to get the bearing blocks right here to fit in. I sanded these a little bit, and I also sanded those a little bit to get them to fit in, because I need to recess all the way in, and this was just a matter of gluing everything together and painted it. I painted it a raw umber color, and now I think I'm ready for the walls. I'm hoping that when it comes down to it, I will be able to do all of the cabling after the entire model is completed. And I think I'll be able to, because there's holes in the bottom. I should be able to run the thread at a later date, you know, from the top through, because you'll be able to see completely through the model. You won't be able to operating, you know, maybe if you were 7.5 feet tall, you could, but where it sits on the layout, you won't be able to see down inside there. Okay, enough yammering. I'm going to get on with adding some walls, hopefully. I've got it dry fit together, and you know, the instructions say you can and should dry fit it together before you glue. I'll definitely say that there's a little bit of a process of kind of how things should go together, and I'm not convinced it's how the instructions say it should go. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rehearse putting it together a few more times, and then kind of come back and make sure that I know exactly how I think it should go together before I glue it, and kind of tell you what I think about it. I've got a game plan for how this is going to go together. So the instructions have you start by putting these two walls together on the base, and then putting in the main head frame. And then they want you to put this piece, which is supposed to all be glued together, in attached to that before you go in with this other wall. So what I've discovered If this is already in place, this assembly, if it were glued together, you would have to fight it pretty good because these posts interfere with them, because you know it has to recess into these pockets in the base of the floor. So I'm relatively sure, after rehearsing a few times, that the best method, at least for me, I'm not going to say that it might not work well for you, is I'm going to go ahead and put this piece in right now. And I'm not even going to glue it because it doesn't really need glued. And these uprights right here is what kind of interferes with the head frame. And now I'm going to glue the head frame in, the main head frame. All right, that looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to test fit one more time. It's a nice pressed fit around that lower oar chute. All right, that will work. And again, I'm not going to mess with gluing the lower oar chute here because it's just really not necessary. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to hit the feet. Now it's also supposed to glue right here. You can see there's just a little bit of a gap. And I'm not sure if that's worth messing with, because I think there's too much tension. I don't think there's any way I could clamp it to hold it there long enough for it to actually work. So I think I'm going to leave that just like it is. Not worry about gluing it. As long as there's something solid for the walls to attach to, it should be fine. All right, I'm going to let that dry before I start messing with the walls. Okay, I think that is probably glued and dried sufficiently enough to move on. So the next thing should be this piece, and I want to mention something about this piece. So, you know, throughout this build, I've made at least 3 mistakes. Probably more than that, but for sure I've made 3 that are absolutely worth talking about. And this one is not 100% sure if I would consider it a mistake or not. But you can see that this little section right here, it has to fit underneath right here. And with the head of the rail all the way to the end, it won't fit underneath there. And I extended those rails all the way to the tab, which is exactly what the picture says to do. You know, there's no written instructions for hardly anything in this. And that would have been fine if I'd have used the wood pieces. Probably the wood pieces might have slipped underneath there, I don't know. But even if they didn't, it would have been no trick whatsoever to chisel out the wooden rail. But I ended up having to get a razor saw and remove the end of that in order for it to fit, and it was kind of a pain. So that's definitely something to think about if you're building this kit, because it has to fit all the way underneath there and recess in such a way that it's flush all the way around. So I'm ready to glue that. Okay, now I believe it's time for the right wall, and I'm trying to decide how much, if any, glue I want to put along the base of the model. I think I will put just a touch. Okay, now for the right wall, see, I guess the left wall. This isn't wanting to fit in quite right. It's like the whole thing needs to come up just a little bit in order to fit. So I'm gonna file this down just a little bit, and I'm also gonna remove a little bit in these notches as well, where the rails for the ore bin run out. I know the video is getting long, so I'm gonna try and finish up here with some closing statements about the overall kit and where it's at the moment. I'm at the stage where, you know, I'm not going to do anything more to this until I'm probably ready to put it in the finished scene. And you know, overall, this is a wonderful kit. I can't say anything really ill about any of it. There are a few things that I think I want to point out that if I were to build it again, I would do different than what the instructions point out, or at least the way I understand the instructions. So the first thing that I would recommend, don't glue this and don't glue that. You can build this whole structure, and I would not attempt to put this in at all. And then this can kind of press in and out. I think I mentioned earlier where you might need to do a little sanding there. Don't worry about gluing any of those two pieces in. And then the next thing is this assembly right here. Once it's glued together, I would not glue this onto the feet at this point in the build, because, let me find the instructions. How this whole assembly fits in with the main head frame is pretty important. And so that assembly that I just mentioned, it's supposed to fit right in there. And having the head frame already built where you can put it into the base before you glue this section onto the feet, in my opinion, is just a better way of making sure that all of this fits in here the way you want it to, seamlessly. Because I did struggle with the final fit and finish of the front wall because I did not get that piece perfectly aligned. And it's kind of hard to do because you don't really have any way of knowing how it fits into the head frame if you haven't built the head frame already. So if I were to write these instructions, I would do the head frame and the roof. I would do all of that before I did any of this. Because the other thing to keep in mind is that this piece, the upper oar chute, it interfaces I can get it to show. The light is terrible, but it interfaces right in here, and you can see mine does not. And the reason why is because I didn't really see how it should fit because I didn't have the head frame built. You know, you live and you learn, and at the end of the day, it's still a really good looking model. It went together really well. The only other thing that was kind of tricky is these small rods going through there. That required some patience, and I did get it. But overall, I'm very pleased with how it looks. I probably would do the roofs a little bit different as far as color goes. They are what they are now. And I can tell you the whole thing, it looks darker on camera than it does in the room. So thanks for watching the Otter Creek and Rio Grande. Look for another video on the hoist house. And I don't know if I'll do a separate video for the oar bins. I haven't decided yet because the oar bins are still kind of up in the air as to what I'm going to do with them. So we'll see you around. Thanks for watching.